In this video, we're going to talk about alimony pendente lite. What that is basically one party asking the other, or asking for a court order that the other party, normally the higher income earner or the person who controls all the financial assets, it is asking them for financial support pendente lite. So during litigation, while the divorce is pending, asking for financial support from the other. And the reason for this is that, if somebody is a higher income earner or somebody can, controls all the family assets, which often happens and, depending on the family dynamics, the ability to file a pendente lite motion for alimony prevents the higher income earner from cutting the lower income earner off financially. And it can also ensure that all the bills get paid, on the house or any other bills that need to be paid. A pendente lite motion for alimony is a way to ensure that those expenses are paid. So I'm going to share my screen here. And here is a sample motion. So this is a very basic form. We just caption it motion for alimony pendente lite, and you're going to insert the plaintiff and the defendant's names in the appropriate judicial district here. And it's basically saying that the plaintiff is in this case is asking that the court enter orders compelling the defendant to pay alimony pendente lite. And this can be reversed. The defendant can file a motion for alimony, asking that the plaintiff provide financial support. And it's just stating that the grounds for the motion is that the plaintiff is dependent in part upon the plaintiff is dependent upon the defendant for financial support. That's normally what we put in our forms. You can feel free to put some additional grounds for the reason you're requesting alimony, but this is kind of a catch-all that normally would, obviously this is very vague, so that's a good way to kind of open the door to a lot of further explanations, but you can put more detail there if you want. And then you just have to sign it and put a certification page. So if the other side, if you're the plaintiff and you're initially filing the divorce action and you're filing, a motion for alimony pendente lite along with the complaint, then you don't need the certification page because you have the marshal serve them, and that would be incorporated in the return of service. Would say that the defendant received notice by being served. But if you're the defendant, for example, and after the case is filed, you're serving this on the plaintiff, then you need to include a certification of service, basically swearing to the court that you're going to send them a copy of the motion. And then you just have to put their contact info there. Or if you're the plaintiff and you didn't initially file a pendente lite motion for alimony, but you filed it, a month or two later after initially filing the case, then you need to include the certification of service and include all the parties to the case all the parties who have an appearance in the case. You have to put their info here and send them a copy. So the statute that dictates alimony pendente lite is 46B-83. And it basically says that the court can make an order for pendente lite alimony, and the court, in making that order, the court can consider all the factors enumerated in section 46B-82. So that's another statute, except the court cannot consider the grounds for the complaint or the cross complaint, and I'll explain that in a minute. So again, it says that it can consider all the grounds in 46B-82. So let's drag that over here. So this is the alimony statute, which basically, so here's the relevant portion, which is highlighted. So in determining whether alimony shall be awarded, and the duration and the amount of the award, you can kind of ignore that part, because in Pendente Lite, you're not determining a duration. It's usually just while the divorce is ongoing. So you're not saying, 5 years of alimony, 7 years of alimony. You're not figuring out the set time. This is just kind of a temporary, order. So that's not necessary. But the court in determining the amount to award for alimony, the court will consider evidence presented by both parties and shall consider the length of the marriage, the cause of the annulment or dissolution of the marriage or legal separation. So what it says here is that in determining a Pendente Lite award for alimony, the court does not consider the grounds for the divorce. So they're not gonna consider the causes of the divorce. And the reason is, a Pendente Lite order is just supposed to it's supposed to be based on the financial circumstances and basic circumstances. The court's not going to consider, if one of the spouses cheated or if one of the people, one of the people was intolerably cruel to the other, physically abusive, emotionally abusive. And the reason is, a Pendente Lite alimony award or hearing, it's supposed to be a basic temporary support award. And, if in a hearing, the court was going to hear the grounds of the breakdown, that would extend the amount of time needed for a hearing. And you would basically be having a complete trial on the cause of the breakdown. So the court's not going to hear the case as a whole in determining an alimony award. They're just trying to look at kind of the financial circumstances of the parties and what award is necessary in order to, in order to make sure that both spouses have the money they need to carry on through the divorce. So the court is not going to consider the cause of the divorce, but they are going to consider the age of the parties, the health of the parties, the occupation of both of them, their ability to earn an income, the amount and sources of their income, their earning capacity. So, if somebody's not working or working a minimum wage job when they have the ability to earn, $75,000 a year or $100,000 a year, the court's going to take that into consideration in determining a Pendente Lite alimony award. They're going to look at the vocational skills, the education of the parties, the employability, the estate and needs of each of the parties. So if somebody doesn't have any income, but they have, they've inherited $1 million from their parents, or, there's some inheritance, the court's going to take that into consideration in setting an alimony award while the divorce is pending. So those are kind of the factors that the court takes into consideration. And again, this last one is if there are children involved, the court's going to look at the feasibility of a parent, presumably the lower income earner, securing employment. So if they have 3 kids that they're taking care of at home, it's not really feasible for a parent to go out and get a job. Because they have a lot of work to do in taking care of the children, but it also might not make financial sense to go out and get a job making, $30,000 a year if you're paying $35,000 a year for daycare. It wouldn't make practical sense to go out and get employment. So those are kind of the factors that the court takes into consideration in setting an alimony award Pendente Lite. So basically, the motion gets filed, and then, the parties would try to reach an agreement on a weekly support award. And then ultimately, if you can't reach an agreement on a Pendente Lite support award, the parties would have to go in front of a judge and have a little mini hearing where the court would look at the financial affidavits of both parties, hear what both parties have to say about what they think the alimony award should be pendente lite, and then the court would issue a decision basically saying, X amount of dollars per week should be paid by, one spouse to the other while the divorce is pending. And that, again, is only while the divorce is pending. And, while the divorce is pending, the parties are presumably trying to work out a permanent settlement to their case, which would, include division of assets, alimony, child support, etc. And that those ultimate orders are not necessarily going to be the same as the pendente lite orders. So it's two separate orders that are worked out. There's the pendente lite orders, and then the permanent orders at the resolution of the case. So that's pretty much it as far as pendente lite alimony.